Everything is chaos.
Hi, I'm Cass.
I'm Kayle.
And this is Rooted. Today we're going to be talking about faith in God's plan and not your own plan.
It's going to be a good topic too, because I think as parents and just as believers, that's something that all of us innately struggle with. Before we dive all the way in though, I have not seen you much today, and you're my best friend. So,
My best friend.
What have you been up to today?
Working and parenting. Working while parenting. So that's been fun. Ensuring that our daughter cleans her room.
That's good.
We had a little break from that while she was waiting for Grampy to bring her a snack from the market.
I heard she got an ice cream.
She did, but that is not what she... Well, actually, this goes well with our topic today. She asked for the ice cream sandwich.
Okay.
And then she stopped and changed her mind and said, wait, I think I want a coffee cake. And he says, really? Yeah. No, I think I will. He's like, all right, well, I'll check and see if they have that.
Mm-hmm.
And that coffee cake decision was actually because she thought that there was a chance ice cream sandwiches wouldn't be there because it's the middle of winter in Maine. Hello? Who really wants an ice cream sandwich in the winter? I'm not judging anyone who does. But anyway, she then, after waiting a while, because he didn't leave right away, so she was kind of in impatient mode already, in excitement for what she decided she was going to have, and she already pumped herself up now for the coffee cake. He gets back, and he tells her that he got her broccoli, and her immediate response that I hear from many rooms away is, I didn't want that. And I'm like, oh no, this is not how we react to anything that we want or don't want. Well, the broccoli was supposed to be a joke. Still the point of the matter. Either way, he got her an ice cream sandwich instead of the coffee cake. And it kind of had me thinking about how we react to when we expect something and get something different. And, well, obviously broccoli didn't actually happen. It had me thinking about the Christmas season. And you know, we all get so wrapped up in all the presents and all of the stuff and what we expect to get, or really, I mean, as a parent, it's more of what do my kids expect to get,
right,
and what is workable, what isn't. And as I paused, obviously I spoke to Hazel about how we react to and how we behave, and being grateful for whatever it is that Grampy gets for us. It had me thinking about how we so often pray for our own plan in our life. You know, I pray for whatever's going on in school. I pray for all of the things that kids have going on, and the little stuff, hockey, gymnastics, whatever. And then the bigger things, healing and finances, and all of those pieces are sometimes the coffee cake.
Yeah.
You know? And God's plan is, well, it probably should be broccoli, is the ice cream sandwich, right? And we sometimes lose grasp of praying and having faith that God's plan is what's for us.
That's so spot on too. And I think there's a couple things I want to unpack from that. On my TikTok channel, I've been talking about the Christmas season a lot, obviously with it coming up.
Yeah.
And doing, prayer videos to help us, especially as parents, to change our perspective. Because especially in our country, in our culture, Christmas becomes this like debt incurring stress factory where, we're constantly like, am I giving the kids the Christmas they deserve?
Right.
Or, like our middle child wants a phone, all her friends have phones. Like, is she gonna get the phone?
Right.
That's what we're worried about.
Right.
And it's hard finding that balance as a parent when you're trying to break your kids out of that mold of thinking about these holidays that are so rooted in our faith and our traditions and why we do what we do and why we believe what we believe. Trying to break our kids out of I want the new iPhone, I want a new bike, I want this, I want everything my friends have, want, give. debt, max out your credit cards kind of situation, when like that's not what this is about. But the balance struggle comes into play where you do still want them to have a Christmas that they get the things that they want.
Right.
So finding that middle ground is so hard. And so the videos I've been putting up are like, dude, help us, like, no matter what's under the tree, no matter who's at the table, no matter what's on the table, right? Like, if you're eating ramen this Christmas by yourself at your table, find a way to thank God for the birth of his son.
Right.
Because, like, that's what we're doing here. There's another thing that you said that I found interesting. It's not just the broccoli, coffee cake, ice cream sandwich, which blessing am I going to be grateful for? It was the timeline.
Yeah.
You said that she was growing impatient while she was waiting on her blessing. And I think that is a trap that all of us fall into. Look back over the Bible when Abraham and Sarah were promised a son. How long did they have to wait?
Right.
I think they grew a little impatient. And it got to the point where they're being reminded by heavenly hosts, like, dude, God promised you this.
Mm-hmm.
Trust the plan. And Sarah laughs and was like, do you know how old I am? That's not possible.
Yep.
So how long in that hallway of unknowing, when we can't see the next door, but we know God promised a blessing to come, whether it's broccoli or an ice cream sandwich or a coffee cake or whatever the blessing is, how often in that hallway do we get impatient and start implementing our own plans? Instead of waiting on our Isaac, we're actively planning on how to create our Ishmael.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny, too, because we always look at it in hindsight and go, yeah, no, I had faith that this was going to happen when the plan that wasn't ours becomes something greater in life. And we go, yeah, no, I had faith. But we forget the moments where we were like, no, I'm wishing for something else. I'm praying that God's going to do that. I have faith that God's going to do this thing, and we use.
But we name it.
Right.
The thing.
We
Not
name
a
the
thing.
Right.
The thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples biblically that cover this. And it's funny, in Hebrews, they reference Sarah's faith for the baby. Mm-hmm. But how long after?
Yeah.
And not in that moment. Because in that moment, she was laughing, saying, hello, do you see my age? And those are the big things, praying for a baby. Yeah. Why won't God bless me with a baby right now? Not me personally. I have babies and I'm very good. But I think that for us, financially, we've been in that roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
What feels like a blessing later really kind of turned out to be a temptation for idolization, where we, in the moment, thought, this is what we prayed for. This is the plan. This is how we're going to do it. Yeah. And then as the hard stuff started to happen and we were refined in our thinking, we learned to have faith in the plan that was going to happen when money got tight and Christmas didn't feel like what we were used to anymore and what was so easy to do. And I think that it's been such a blessing, actually, because it forces you to be grateful for just conversations in the day, just the small pieces. What is all of this actually about?
I think something that people forget, too, is in our human understanding, we have a hard time looking at the seasonality of our circumstances.
Yeah.
Right? Let me try to unpack this concisely. So there was a time where I had a very high paying job.
Yeah.
Right? And now we're in a season where I don't.
Yeah.
People get the job and they're like, this is my blessing. And they hold on to it like it's something of theirs to possess. But in reality, we needed that job for 4 months. We needed that job to come up with the money to fix our house in Virginia, to move here and to get into ministry. The job wasn't mine. The season of that blessing was exactly as long as it needed to be for the things to fall into place that God intended for us to be able to step into, for us to get to Maine, for us to do the initial repairs on this house to make it livable and plumbed and fix the leaks and all those things. We needed basically exactly the amount of money that we got from that job, from selling our other house. And now we're back to a point of not surplus, but not lacking, right? We're maintaining. And like, I truly believe that that is the difference in our understanding and his understanding in that picture of what is your blessing? Is it for a week? Is it for your life? Because some people will be like, I don't understand. I prayed for this friendship. I prayed for this job. I prayed for this thing for so long and I got it. Then why did God take it away from me? And we have such narrow sighted outlook on the time duration behind these things, the multifaceted, intricately woven plan of God's involves people and things and locations and employment that are all for different limited amount of times that all work together towards the plan, and we often can't see that.
Right. And even in that, in your job, how many people did you interact with that maybe you had an impact on or that had an impact on you? And then the bigger blessing, I think, is the lesson learned.
Oh, yeah.
In that.
Yep.
So the first obvious physical blessing on earth, right? Our earthly blessing in that moment for that job, for that time frame was financially. It assisted us in doing what we needed to do to get where we were supposed to go that we didn't even realize was part of the bigger plan.
Right.
Even that decision was really more from my heart of going back to my roots after losing my mom and wanting to be somewhere that felt like home in my mind.
Right.
Right. And then with that loss of the financial blessing after the fact was a bigger blessing.
Yep.
Because there's such a removal of earthly desires once you learn to live without the thing you thought you had to have.
Mm-hmm.
And you can become grateful for how it impacts you in understanding how each piece moves together. And now that that part is gone, that one job is gone, it's allowed you to speak to so many other people. Yep. And change what your entire plan is. And a ministry evolves from that. Every single time we deal with some level of loss, pain, not our plan, once that faith bubbles back up, and obviously we're human, right? There's a moment where we're going, oh man, how are we going to pay that bill? Mm-hmm. Oh, the electricity just got turned off. How are we going to handle that? We're scrounging together money. We're selling stuff we really don't need, honestly. And we're realizing that our value was placed in the wrong places. And then understanding the importance of relationships and parenting and our relationship. If what we're doing causes us to never see each other or our kids every single day for the sake of paying a bill, then is that God's plan? Like, is that something he would have really planned for? Or is that us wanting something so badly? Right. The bigger house, the nicer car, the big Christmas, whatever it is. And it's tenfold, right? It's in anything. It was with my college, right? In getting booted out of college a few years back for letting the grief of loss over a multitude of things take over my mindset. Yeah. I lost my ability to focus on anything. And so when I was told I had to be done and I could apply for amnesty later, my brain could not wrap around the idea that a Christian college where I was clearly supposed to be doing something for God and I couldn't figure out what yet wasn't part of the plan anymore. Yeah. How could God let that happen? But after losing that for so long and really digging through my grief and, seeing how everything is attached and how one item affects another in my thinking and how it caused me to become the person that just didn't do the work anymore. I learned that I really was getting the degree or doing the college for the sake of the financial aspect or the certificate on the wall. And I had to have an accountability check on what I was doing this for. Sure. And once my heart posture changed to a faith in his plan, I'm now back. And now I'm doing it for him. Truly for him. And I think that that's really where we need to realize that in any moment of prayer for the thing. Let us get through this college class. Let us finish this degree, a child, whatever it is, a sickness. And sometimes it's praying for the health of a loved one and they don't make it.
Yeah.
And in those lessons, in those moments of loss, seeing how God's plan works so much bigger and replenishes who you are. I wouldn't be this version of myself right now if I hadn't lost my mom, if we hadn't lost our daughter, if I hadn't experienced Scarlett going through leukemia and chemotherapy and all of that, if I hadn't had to parent Elijah as the oldest, back burner child through all of this, just being a good, kind-hearted kid, right? I think there's just so many pieces that have come together in this puzzle, and it's exciting to think about what other pieces can fit if we step away from the worldly desires we so often have in our prayers. And well, God knows where our minds are set, right? We don't do it on purpose. I don't think. I don't, at night when I pray every night, we pray for Hazel and all of the children for safety and health. What if God's plan isn't safety or health that day, right? What are we willing to learn from that? What do we take from that? And are we so full of faith that we're willing to accept what his plan is, whether we, in the worldly, physical sense, like it or not?
Right. You said a lot there, and that was all very spot on, too. Like, we talked about the employment thing, and obviously you just shared a bunch of different grief-filled situations, so it feels almost strange to use the employment thing as the example here, but that was my first opportunity to exercise my newly found faith when I lost that job. And I took a day. I was like, I'm going to go drive. I'll be back.
Yeah.
But I didn't make it down past the covered bridge a couple miles down the road before I felt this like, okay. I built my whole life around this job. I had spreadsheets with our projected finances out 5 years.
I know.
With this job. But there's something about coming to faith. You talk about heart posture, you talk about all these things, but when you come to faith and you say things in prayer like, search my heart and remove from me what no longer glorifies you or adds value to me, and then you immediately lose the job that allowed you to idolize money in a way where you stop tithing, you stop contributing, and you're hoarding, and like you're making spreadsheets to like track your bank account just to look at it.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's gone.
Right.
Yeah. But you talk about heart posture too, and I think that a lot of people say in prayer, the answers are like yes or not yet, right? Rarely ever is prayer no. And I think that's the answer to prayer, rather. And I think that might be a slippery slope conversationally and biblically, but with your college situation, when you got pulled out of it, that was a not yet. It wasn't a, we're not doing this. It was a, this would be beneficial, but you're not bringing me glory doing this. So we're not going to do this yet. Right? Like when Nebuchadnezzar got sent out, he was in charge of the whole kingdom, and he was warned that God was the reason why it was what it was. Right? And they were like, I forget the prophet now who spoke to him. Isaiah was like, listen. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't remember.
A prophet came up to him and was like, yo, you need to understand that the only reason why you are where you are is because of God. Like, don't make this about yourself. And then he went up and stood and looked over everything that he built and went, look what I did. Look at me. And so God sent him away. And the punishment wasn't for this amount of days, right? Or for this amount of time. It was, you will be banished and live among the animals and live like they do until you are willing to give God the glory. And once he realized, gave God the glory and repented, his kingdom was restored to him, right? That was a not yet moment. It was I'm going to remove the blessing that you're squandering, and we'll talk about giving it back to you when you can figure out what's really important and who is really important. And I believe there's examples filled all throughout the Bible about people losing their blessing because they're mismanaging it and not giving credit where credit's due. And it's so easy in things in grief, in losing jobs and all these different situations in Christmas, in parenting, to not have God at the center. And it's a slow drift sometimes, right? You start with God at the center, and then the paycheck starts to pull you this way, and you start looking at the next promotion and what you have to do for this and the next degree and whatever. And 2 degrees off course for 2 years puts you on a different continent.
Yeah.
But God has a really good way of slowing you down.
Mm-hmm.
And in my life, I've learned, and this is just my opinion, but my life was filled with all these things, and God was like nowhere to be found, but I hadn't made room in my like backpack of my life for God to even fit into the picture, right? Like my backpack was full.
Right.
And so God, one by one, started just gently, and sometimes not gently, removing items from my backpack.
Yeah.
Right? For me to see that none of these things that brought me what I thought was peace and comfort and safety, none of those really did that. Right? Whether that was alcohol, whether that was medications, whether that was a specific job, no matter what the thing was that I was using as my God, my safety, my peace, my comfort, one by one got removed until I had nothing other than like our relationship and our children, but I had no external things that were comforting, that were peaceful, or that brought me joy or purpose until I fell on my face and was like, okay, I get it now. You are the peace. You are the comfort. You are the purpose. None of those things ever were. I want you being the only thing in my backpack. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Watching God take all the pawns off the table until all you can see is the king changes everything.
Yeah.
But you have to stay on course. And I think that's a big struggle when we talk about God's plan versus our plan. Because like you were saying, people will say, oh, I trust God in this. I have complete faith that God will give me this exact job at this exact company for this salary, working remotely. And you're putting parameters around God's plan. It's not his plan anymore. Right?
Right.
Trusting God is even if, not what if. It's not. It's no matter what job, even if no job. If God gives me the shovel, I'll make the hole. I don't need him to dig for me. You know, we can't. We fence in God's plan with our own fence posts of expectations.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what we lose sight of daily.
Yeah.
Because we're human.
Right.
Right. And as parents, it becomes difficult because, well, we go, oh, I need to make this much to pay for these bills that we've already set ourselves up for, right? A mortgage and a car payment, right? A loan, not even including the rest of the things that we have. You start to plan.
Yeah.
It's ingrained in us since we were young. You're in school, you get into high school, and they're like, okay, well, what are you going to major in college? What are you going to do? What's your plan? How are you going to survive? Not saying you don't have a plan. God didn't give us brains to not use them. That's not what I'm saying. We should be using our thought processes, but while we're doing it, giving it to God. So in parenting and trying to remind kids in the small things, like a bad grade or a tough essay or a project or being way far behind in art class.
That felt oddly specific.
Elijah. In that, it's so easy to go, okay, pray about it. Just pray about it. You know, give yourself rest, go get some fresh air, go talk to God, and see how you feel and what presents itself to you. And then for them to come back inside the house and we're inside talking about finances or Christmas or whatever. And having to remind myself of the advice I just gave to my children to say, you know what? I'm okay with that not working out the way I planned. And that's actually that's why Isaiah was in my head, because of Hezekiah, when the Babylonians were going to take over, and he tells Isaiah, okay, he was okay with it. No big deal. My sons are going to go into exile. No problem. There'll be peace then. And that's really the difference when you're talking about God's filling your backpack, and with your peace and your joy. And we try to fill our backpack for peace and joy, but it's not joy that we're seeking. We're seeking happiness, which is so earthly. And I'm not anti-happiness. I love happiness. It's great. but it's temporary.
We also live in a culture that says, do what makes you happy.
Right.
Which is like the
do not do what
faith.
makes you happy. Not saying don't live a life that is rewarded.
Right.
In fact, I think that we all focus too much on, I gotta have a job that will make me enough money that makes me happy.
Right.
Instead of, I want to do something to survive with my family that brings reward and joy and peace and life lessons. And how different are we now comparatively, right? From our, back 5-6 years ago, maybe more, my thought was, man, I hope sometime I could afford some red bottom shoes so I can go into the office and I wanted to feel.
I want to be seen in my.
I want to be powerful in my
Yeah.
job. I want to be so good that people see that I'm the embodiment of success.
Right.
My degrees, my shoes, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And now my pantsuits up there are collecting dust. And not saying that the blazers aren't cute, they are, but in the scheme of things, I had lost what was really important. And now my goal is just so different. My goal,
powerless.
I sat here before the podcast and thought, maybe I'll wear pajama pants during that. Who am I? But that's for happiness, not joy. Although, I mean, it's pretty close. Pajama pants are comfy.
The big difference, right, is happiness is a feeling, like hunger. Right? It can be satisfied, and then in a few hours, you are craving it again.
Yeah.
Because it's a fleeting, almost physical,
dopamine.
Right.
Yeah.
But joy is a way of living. Like when the Bible says you'll know them by your fruits, and then you get into the fruits of the Spirit, joy is one of them. And it doesn't say happiness. Right. Does this person exude a hope in something, in God, in the plan? And no matter what happens, is their disposition one that's positive and hopeful? Right. That's not happiness. Right. It's rewiring how we look at the world around us, trying as best as we can to look at it through a lens of God. Right. And that's really where you get into the even if. Because we'll catch ourselves. And when you said you were talking about telling the kids to go outside and pray about it, and then they come in and we're like, how are we gonna pay the truck bill? And that example we're giving off. I don't know if you saw me, but I immediately shrunk back into myself. Every time I'm having an off day, you go back on my TikTok and send me videos I've posted that speak to how I'm feeling in that moment.
I just had to show you.
You know what I'm saying?
Chase the cross real quick. Let you hear yourself.
I'm like,
get you a mirror.
Nothing's working today. I'm so out of control. And you'll be like, remember yesterday when you posted a prayer video on totally relinquishing control and trusting God? Here you go. But I also think that's why community is so important. Within the body, right? The Bible talks about let the hand be the hand, let the foot be a foot. We're all different. Embrace that. But together, we encompass the body, right? On days where I am failing, you can help pick me up. On days we're both failing, another godly Christian couple can build us up. The level of bi-directional cup filling that happens within the body is what keeps our joy alive. Obviously, God does, but the Spirit works through the body of believers to keep us on point. Because you're going to have a bad day. You're not going to follow your own advice. I've historically always been great at giving other people advice that I would never follow.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying it. Community is important. Whether that's online or in person. In this day and age, I have plenty of community on the internet. And there's on TikTok, there's live rooms I go into when I'm feeling down, and they're a Christian live host, and they're just praying and pleading the blood and speaking life, and I leave those rooms feeling so uplifted. Yeah. When Elijah was going through his little bout of depression there, I brought it to a guy who I know on TikTok, who I've never met. Yeah. And he had a room with 30 people in it, and we prayed over our son by name with 30 strangers from all around the world, and I left that feeling so much more confident because together with God, we are strong enough to endure. Right? The loss, the grief, the changes, the lack of control. Trusting in his plan is easier and is more tangible when we lean on each other.
Right. And understanding, I think, that the difference there is our plan might be temporary happiness. Yeah. It might go terribly wrong and have no happiness.
Yeah.
But it probably will end up unhappy at some point because we followed our own. But his plan is joy because it is rooted in faith. It is rooted in the principles that are biblically sound. And we're going to have to be checking ourselves every single day.
Yeah.
Zero of this is me saying that I think that I do this regularly, because I certainly don't.
Right.
It's so easy to the whispers and the thoughts, what if this? What if this turned into this? Or how about if I take this route in my life? Not, is God leading me down this route? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And even the gifts that we have in life are given to us for the sake of his plan. And we so easily take them and go, oh, clearly this is so I can do something
wonderful. We start
wonderful.
Putting our fence posts of expectations around the small glimpse of the plan that we got.
Yeah. It's gross.
It is.
We got to be better.
It's submission. It's submission in every form. Like when I lost the big job, when I got to a point where I was like, okay, legitimately, I know that your promises for my life are not monetary. They are not rooted in happiness. You said, for I know the plans I have for your life, plans for hope and plans for a future. Period. If I know that I have hope and I have a future, whether that's here or there,
right,
that's enough for me. So I submit. I'm letting go of control. And that, like you said, that doesn't mean there's not verbs that you now have to do, right? Like we have to put in our own work, but I'm not going to let my employment change my joy. I'm not going to let it affect how I parent, how I spouse, how I do the things, how I shepherd the blessings that I already have. Because none of the things that are competing for space in my head that are trying to take away from joy are his plan, right? And the enemy loves to come in and whisper the little things. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, God, what about that job? Yeah. Oh yeah, how are you going to pay that? And all these other things. But submission is hearing those thoughts, dismissing them, taking control of your thought life and giving it to the Lord and saying, no matter where this ends up, I still have you. Right? When we stop and think about the price paid for us on the cross, not just as a transaction, but emotionally, the level of love that had to be required while Jesus was bleeding and punctured and crying on the cross to go through with it. When we think about that love, truly, we know that he owes us nothing. If you, me, and the kids all lived under a bridge in a cardboard box and we were begging for food, and it's easy to say because we're not, right? I truly believe that we would still have joy even if we had nothing else, because we know that God has plans for hope and plans for a future for us as one flesh and for our children. All the other stuff can go. If that's his will, let it go. We submit. We don't need it.
No, I agree.
Thank you so much for watching that. Full transparency, the phone that I was using to record that podcast on, the storage filled up and it apparently ended somewhere in there. So there's another 10-ish minutes of that podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts on, the full audio file will be uploaded because we recorded that on a separate device. But from a video standpoint, yikes, we're learning. Thanks for watching. This was our first official Rooted Productions podcast. We're so excited to keep doing this. Stay tuned. We have a bunch of bloopers from the first couple of times that we tried to do this. A lot of fun stuff. In this podcast, we're really, really trying to just talk about Christ-centered marriage, how we're raising our kids in a homeschooled Christian manner, and all the trials, struggles, grief, love, good and bad of biblical marriage. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you around. God bless. God bless.